This original WSRE presentation is made possible by viewers like you. Thank you.
President and CEO of the Gulf Power Company, Stan Connally, on this edition of Conversations. In the summer of 2012, Stan Connally became President and Chief Executive Officer of the Gulf Power Company. A mechanical engineer by training, Connally's career with Southern Company, the parent of Gulf Power, has been quite diverse. Beginning as a co-op student at Georgia Power, Stan has risen through the ranks, holding positions in customer operations, sales and marketing, power generation, and engineering. In addition to running Gulf Power, Connally is on the board of the Florida Chamber of Commerce, Enterprise Florida, and the James Madison Institute. We welcome Stan Connally to Conversations. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Jeff. Honored to be here.
Talking about starting at the bottom, started out as a co-op student with Georgia Power. You've risen to a very nice position. Tell me more.
Yeah, it doesn't get much lower than being the co-op student. Yeah. I was honored to be able to join Georgia Power Company early in my career. I lived around Georgia Power Company as I was growing up. Knew I wanted to be something like an architect or an engineer. Had the ability to go tour one of our power plants in Georgia. And that really led me down the road to engineering, and mechanical engineering specifically. Was able to join Georgia Power Company as that co-op student and do all the grunt work a co-op student does. But I was surrounded by some great people that taught me the business, taught me engineering. It was really a great start.
In your leadership role now, do you ever hearken back to those days and pull from those experiences to deal with employees today?
Oh, sure. When you get to a role like I'm in today, it's easy to lose touch with what's going on in the front lines of the business. And along with that co-op experience, that sales and marketing experience early in my career, it reminds me of what we really do every day, and that is we make, move, and sell electricity. And having spent time in that world as a co-op student, an engineer, a sales engineer, a marketing person, understanding that front line of what it takes to make electricity, what it takes to move it, to get it to our customers, and then to serve those customers, you have to think back on that every single day. You can't lose touch with that. It really inspires me to get back out and visit with individuals that are in those roles today to be sure I stay plugged in.
When you come in, because you're relatively new as CEO of Gulf Power, it's always had a great reputation as good management. You walk into a situation like that, I would assume on the surface, that's probably in pretty good shape. How do you approach that as a new leader to kind of start to put your mark on it without disrupting things?
Yeah. Look, I am extremely blessed to come to a company that has been well run and has a good reputation in the community. I think the challenge we all have, whether you're in the electric utility industry or any other business, is making sure you don't get complacent. And looking for ways to get better every day. And so when you come into an organization like I was able to do that was well run and in fairly good shape on most fronts, it's easy to focus on the big problems because you can go attack those and find solutions. The harder thing is to challenge you and your team to look for the little things that make a difference. And that's largely what I've experienced since I've gotten here is a well-run company, but there's always little things we can do better to serve customers, and that's what gets me excited every day and inspires me to lead others to say, you did well. How can we challenge ourselves to do an increment better or 2 increments better to serve our customers?
Technology is changing our world in so many ways, from how we talk on the phone to how we consume media to whatever. How is it changing in the electric utility world?
Oh, great question. The fundamentals of making electricity have not changed.
Okay.
And so, you go back to the days of Edison and what it took to generate the first kilowatt hour of electricity. Many of those fundamentals haven't changed. The laws of physics haven't changed that much. But the technology to make it, the technology to deliver it to our customers is evolving every single day. Let me give you a couple of examples. Okay. In the last 2 years, we've installed new meters on our customers' homes. We call them smart meters. In years past, and we aim to have no outages, but when you had an outage, you may have had to pick up the phone and call us and say, our lights are out. Can you get somebody to come check on that? Well, today, our meters can tell us immediately when your lights are out, and many times we can dispatch crews much quicker through that smart technology, that communication with that meter. Another example would be our ability to get your power back on quicker. We've installed devices throughout our system that really trim the amount of time it takes to move, to isolate outages and to get your lights back on without having to send a person to that circuit or to that device. And so technology is completely changing the way we think about how we make, move, and sell electricity.
Is this like the smart grid? When we hear smart grid, is this part of smart grid?
That's exactly right. Those two examples I gave you fit right into that suite of smart grid options. And we'll continue to look at other ways we can expand on that. For instance, again, I hate to harp on outages because we don't like to have them any more than you do. But giving you information at your fingertips on your iPhone, your ability to look at your iPhone and know when your power may be back on is something we hope to deliver to customers this year.
Oh, okay.
It's a technology and it's a internet-based platform that's being used and tested across other parts of the country. We've decided it's time to bring it to our customers. So, you know, every year, and that's the thing with technology, it changes so fast.
Right.
And to have people around you that think very creatively, you know, to have grown up in the business, and this is my 24th year with our company, I have worked and lived in a period when the technology didn't evolve as fast as it is today. I have to challenge myself to stay up to speed on that. And I look at the new individuals, the new kids, let's call them kids we're hiring today. They're coming in with ideas that, you know, I can't comprehend immediately, but they grew up with those technologies at their fingertips. And they can bring that innovation and that creative thinking to the way we do our business. And you've got to foster that environment all the time.
Which brings me, what do you look for when you hire a young person today?
Certainly there's the basics of the education we look for and the skills training. Southern Company has something we call Southern Style. It's, you talk about what's and hows if you do business. The what's is we make, move, and sell electricity. How you do it is with ethics, with teamwork, with a push for how can we do it better. We look for individuals that certainly bring those skill sets to us, but those that can bring that standard of ethics that our customers expect, frankly, and we think so important in us being successful in today's environment. We need individuals that are so committed to that standard of ethics and trust, married up with that strong skill set. And that if you can find someone like that, the way I like to look at it is you can have more than a job, you'll have a career.
I've always talked to leaders about this, and most of them will tell me, I need the soft skills. I need those inherent soft skills because I can train the hard skills. I can teach somebody how to operate a machine or whatnot. Would you concur with that?
To a degree. We're still a very technical business. And so you think about operating our power plants, we certainly bring in individuals that have no experience with doing that. But you got to have the technical aptitude. And some folks really enjoy that and aspire to those kinds of roles. Others do not. And some of our testing and some of our screening for individuals helps us see, do they really have that aptitude? But in the core, I would agree with you. Those soft skills, those teamwork skills, those ability to relate to others, those ability to serve, those are so critical in a customer service environment.
Speaking of jobs, you know, unemployment has been much higher than I think most of us in this country are comfortable with. I've asked this question to a lot of folks in the business world, and interesting to get your feedback on it here. Are we facing more of a structural problem with unemployment than perhaps an economic problem? In other words, are there a lot of jobs out there, but maybe just not enough qualified people?
You know, you look at Florida and you look at what has driven our economy. Tourism has been our bread and butter. It's a wonderful economy for Florida to have, and frankly, one that surrounds our state. And we need to always leverage that and be prideful that we have the beaches and we have our tourism. The military industry is so important to Northwest Florida. So the tourism and military piece is so important. Structurally, I think we need to diversify that some. Whether it's clean manufacturing or the service industry that is expanding here in Pensacola, Navy Federal being an example of that. I think any good economy has diversity to it. With that said, it also puts challenges on your workforce. Today we have We have mechanisms to train individuals to work in those manufacturing arenas, but maybe it isn't as functional as it could be. And so I think both from the diversity of the economy itself and the diversity of the training you provide and the education you provide to serve those industries, they've got to be hand in hand. They've got to work together. And while we've got some great things going in Northwest Florida, unemployment isn't where we need it to be.
Right.
We all know that. We've all now seen what tourism can look like when something bad happens. We're also constantly being threatened with what's going on with the government and the military, sequestration or some sort of BRAC activity. Those external pressures on our economy, we need to be sure we're aware of that and look for ways to diversify that, to hedge our bet, if you will, that we're keeping people employed and getting more people employed in Northwest Florida.
What's the key to doing that? What's the key to shifting that paradigm?
I think it goes back to target marketing in a lot of ways. You know, Florida has a brand. It's largely a tourism brand, I think. Visit Florida does an incredible job. I really didn't appreciate how great the Visit Florida brand was to bringing tourists here to visit us, to stay with us, to leave their money with us, and to bring retirees here to live here as their reward. What we may not have as sharp an image on is the business brand in Florida. And I know Enterprise Florida, the statewide economic development organization that I'm a part of, is working on that. It's one thing to be able to look at Florida and say, let's go live there and let's go have fun there. We've got to convince CEOs of big companies or investors to come bring their business here. And the two go together. I'm convinced they go together.
I agree.
I think we've got to sharpen our image on the business brand too, though.
Interesting. When we were talking, I'm going to shift back here just a little bit because we got just a little off track on this, but we were talking a few minutes ago about the smart grid and what's going on with that. Several years back, or I guess quite a few years back now, there had been the blackouts in the Northeast, and there was all the talk about the electric grid is out of date, so on and so forth. Where do we stand with that today?
You know, I think this notion of us having a third world grid in the United States is just wrong.
Okay.
I go back to the couple of examples I mentioned to you earlier about the investment in smart grid devices that are going on our system today. Those are things that are just cutting edge. Right. And our team just got back from, or 2012 was a year, we visited 8 states. Our crews did, going out, helping utilities get their lights back on following major hurricanes or ice storms, those kinds of things. And one of the things I'm proud is they come back and report to me that our system, while others have very good electric distribution systems, Florida, because we expect to have natural disasters, it really has invested in ways in our system that put Florida, I would say, out there among the best in having a grid that is resilient, is smart, a lot smarter than it used to be, serving customers efficiently. But you've got to couple that with preparedness. Right. Natural disasters will happen. We don't have a system that's designed for 150-mile-an-hour winds. Right. You can do a lot to prepare for that with the way you design your system. But having the people and the processes ready to restore power when those things happen is the other half of the equation. And again, Florida is used to having those disasters. We don't want any more.
Right.
But the learnings you get from something like a Hurricane Ivan that came through here 7 years ago, almost going on 8 years ago, or Hurricane Katrina. I lived in South Mississippi when Katrina came through. The learnings you get from that about how to build and design your system to withstand that, and how you set up your processes to deliver reliable service after that. I would tell you, I think Florida's in pretty good shape there.
What about the rest of the nation?
It's advancing. I think the Northeast learned some tough lessons through Hurricane Sandy, Superstorm Sandy. Right. There's let me kind of compare and contrast overhead underground. That's one of the big things
Sure.
they learned up there. Much of the system in the Northeast is underground. The vaults and the underground systems in New York City and a variety of places. While it's easy to think about those underground systems being smarter because they're underground, actually in some cases it took them longer to get some of those systems re-energized because you expose the elements, salt water, flooding, to those kinds of things. Sometimes you have to totally replace those elements. But that said, they had the blackouts up in the Northeast several years ago. I think they've come a long way through coordination of their system and the devices and the design. You can't ever say it won't happen.
Sure.
You've got to always be thinking that it could happen to you and be ready for that. But I think this country is well above a third world grid, as some people would like to describe it.
Is there something, is it called Order 1000?
FERC Order 1000.
Yes, and that's part of getting us more up to date.
It is. It focuses on the wholesale, the large voltage, the large power lines that we have across our country, making sure that's fully integrated and that the planning goes into the coordination, one utility to the next, making sure that, and Florida as an example, that Gulf Power Company is talking to Progress Energy and Florida Power and Light about how they're planning their system. You can't do that in isolation.
Right.
And we have a good planning model across the Southeast that allows us to do that. But the FERC Order 1000 deals with that.
Let's talk a little bit about fuel. I mean, there's been an awful lot of talk about natural gas, and how the U.S. can better use natural gas now that we're able to extract more. And your thoughts on that? Is that for the long term, is that an answer?
The breakthroughs in being able to capture natural gas are potentially game-changing. But we need to be careful that we don't let it be the end-all for us. Let me give you an example of where Southern Company, and specifically Gulf Power, has been able to take advantage of that newfound gas across our country. In 2009, I believe the year, Gulf Power produced some 64% of its electricity from coal-based generation. Last year, we produced 69% from gas-based generation. Now, you've got to have a generating fleet that can take advantages of both, and we have that fleet. We've been able to pass those lower cost fuels, those savings along to our customers. Long term, though, we need to be careful that we don't forget history. Mm-hmm. And you go back to, I mentioned Hurricane Katrina, back to 2005, when that storm rolled through the Gulf of Mexico, and it shut in a large portion of the gas production in the Gulf of Mexico. Gas prices were about 5 times higher than where they are today. Mm-hmm. Now, we're less dependent on offshore gas. We're certainly finding some onshore sources for that. But we don't need to forget history and realize that natural gas will be a volatile fuel going forward, more volatile than coal, which means you also have to consider other sources like nuclear.
Right.
Southern Company's investing in 21st century nuclear. We have to look at renewables and where they make economic sense, and the economics of renewables have improved, but they're still not on par with the traditional sources of electricity for our customers. And then you think about energy efficiency and conservation. You know, one of the best ways for customers to save money is to avoid purchasing that next kilowatt hour. Mm-hmm. We have a number of programs we offer our customers, energy audits. But energy efficiency, sometimes it gets referred to programmatically, but it's really kind of viewed as that fifth fuel. Right. Coal, natural gas, nuclear, renewables, and energy efficiency. You need all of them, and you need to play off all of them.
Speaking of conservation, I'm going to share a personal experience. I had to replace my swimming pool pump here a year or so ago. So you guys were offering, and it's not a commercial for you because I'm kidding here, but you were offering a rebate on a more expensive pump that was more energy efficiency. So I bid, and I cannot tell you how impressed I have been, and we have saved a tremendous amount of money on our electric bill. Sure. But my question to you, what's in it for you? I'm not buying as much electricity.
Well, that's right. But at the end of the day, you as one of our customers, a consumer, you've got to make financial decisions every single day. Sure. You've got to decide whether you want to buy food, invest in education, pay your electric bill. We see just simply the right thing to do is for us to provide you with options so it makes those choices easier for you. Clearly, our economy's been challenged. Every one of our customers felt that challenge. You talk about those decisions people make every day about what they're going to pay, which bills they're going to pay, and what they're going to invest in. If our customers are more efficient, then in the long run, they view our product as something that's of value to them, of greater value. And maybe you'll decide one day you'll put that extra television set in your home because you've been able to save money on your pool pump. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, it's about serving the customer. Our equation is, if our customers are not satisfied with Gulf Power Company and the product we serve, that causes us challenges everywhere we look. We call it our circle of life, and the customer is at the center of that circle of life. And so yes, it's helped you save money, it's reduced our revenue, but in the long run, we think it's a greater value connection between our company and you.
Interesting. Let's come back to fuel for a second. Nuclear. Southern Company is building, I believe it's in Waynesboro, Georgia, in that area, a nuclear power plant. And this is the first nuclear power plant to be built in the U.S. in quite some time.
Over 30 years.
Over 30 years. What's different?
Wow, lots is different. The Nuclear Regulatory Commission, their licensing process, you could probably describe it as somewhat night and day as to what it was 30 years ago. The technologies, the safety systems that surround nuclear today are so much more advanced. We refer to them as passive safety systems, meaning you don't necessarily have to have human intervention when something goes wrong in a nuclear power plant. Today, the systems just take over, and they're so much more safe than they were 30 years ago. It is a tremendous endeavor. Georgia Power Company is among 2 utilities in the country that is endeavoring to build 2 new units, 2 new AP1000 units. They're coming along very well. The breadth of building a nuclear power plant is something that I never would have appreciated unless I visited the site. You know, most of your viewers are probably familiar with Plant Crist and the footprint of that plant. The footprint to build a nuclear power plant is just so much more massive, and the attention to detail, because it is nuclear, we need to take that very seriously, and we do take that very seriously. Right down to paying attention to every ounce of concrete that you pour and every weld that you make is viewed through a lens that's appropriate, but it is so scrutinized to make sure we do it right, and we're committed to doing it right. A lot of things have changed.
What did the industry learn from what happened in Japan with the tsunami?
That story still unfolds. Getting all the facts, because it didn't happen in our country, can be challenging. It was a reminder of emergency preparedness. It's a reminder of asking yourself some of those geologic questions. They had an earthquake and a tsunami. You look at where, within Southern Company at least, where our plants are located. They're hundreds of miles from coastlines. They're not in geologically risky places. There will be new regulations that come out, I'm sure, that challenges every utility across the country to think about those planning scenarios. Do you live near fault lines? Do you live near coastlines? And what are you going to do to protect those facilities? And it could be that you raise the seawall around your facility. It could be that you do things differently about your emergency generators that are on site that can keep you running with power. But again, the new technologies that are being built today, the AP1000, some of those passive systems that I described, safety systems, would have performed differently than they did in Fukushima, and protected that site differently than they did in Fukushima. So that while the Nuclear Regulatory Commission will come out with some new things for us to look at, I'll tell you in large part the new designs and even some of the older designs that Southern Company owns are well protected against some of the same risks.
Would you ever see a nuclear power plant being constructed for Northwest Florida?
Possibly. Let's talk about what it would take to get there. We plan 10, 20, 30 years out. The plant that we're building in Georgia was a 10 to 12 year cycle to build that plant. That's licensing, that's engineering, that's geology, that's actually building the facility and commissioning the facility. And we're looking that far out today. As we sit here today, Gulf Power doesn't have need for a new generation until out past 2020. And so while we're thinking ahead to 2020, we're also considering what are the economics going to be come that time. Natural gas is very attractive today. It would be a dominant, one of the dominant options we'd look at. Nuclear could be one of those things. Nuclear is a very costly upfront endeavor too. Very heavily intensive capital up front, but very low operating costs, fuel costs on the back end. We'd have to decide whether or not that capital investment was the right thing to do for Gulf Power Company, or if we'd pull in partners to do it with us. You know, we purchased a site in North Escambia. That site is suitable for nuclear. It's suitable for natural gas. So it could be a variety of things. Nuclear will remain one of those options we continue to look at.
What's your opinion on the overall economy right now? I mean, things seem to be picking up slowly, but there does seem to be some traction. Are you getting that sense?
Yeah, I would agree we're getting traction. Now, you look at some of the statistics that are out right now here locally. I mean, housing took a nice jump in December in Escambia County. The price of the homes that were sold in December took a nice step upward. So that gives you signal that the housing market is coming back, albeit relatively slow. Unemployment's still not where we need it to be, but in the state of Florida, we've come, I think we're one of the top 2 or 3 states in the country in terms of rebound on unemployment. So there's a lot of positive signs, but there's also a level of uncertainty about investment. I believe there's a lot of businesses and investors that have capital sitting on the sidelines, waiting to invest in Florida because we're a great place to do business. But we're looking for a little bit more clarity on where the federal government's going to be. And our business is the same way. Having clarity to running your business is so important. You're never going to have perfect clarity. But with the mountain of the debt debate in Washington, spending debate in Washington, tax debate in Washington, you couple that with environmental regulation as it relates to us, it's, I won't say it's crippling, but it certainly slows you down. And I think that's where our economy is right now. With some positive news though, Jeff, if we could clear up some of that cloud that's hanging over us in Washington, I'm very optimistic that our economy could take off again.
Yeah. We've got about 2 minutes here.
Okay.
How do we do that though? I mean, Washington just does not seem to get the message. Yeah. I don't know how you change it.
Look, as in life, I think a lot of things boil back to 2 fundamental things: leadership and communication. Leadership that's willing to work together, and we seem to be in short supply of that in Washington right now. And being open to communication and communicating very clearly and transparently with each other. That also seems to be in short supply. I'm optimistic. I'm someone that looks at life as a glass half full, that our leaders will see the risks to our country and they'll find a way to steer us through this. But it all my business boils back a lot to leadership and communication too. So I think those are 2 of the key fundamentals of whether you're Republican or Democrat or far left, far right, or in the middle. Look, at the end of the day, these are American issues. They're not partisan issues. We need to get to the point where we view them that way.
As far as Northwest Florida is concerned, what excites you most?
Wow, on the economic development front, I think Northwest Florida is so poised to do much more. I think we've got great things about our economy today, and we've got leaders. I'm sensing leaders like Mayor Hayward here in town who really wants to revitalize his downtown, and City Council is working with him, a county commission and economic development staffs that want to work together for a better region. And I underscore that region part, Jeff. We can't look at this as one county gains, another one loses. I think we're at a place now where the leaders across Northwest Florida really want that. And I'm excited about where we can go.
Well, listen, welcome aboard.
Yeah,
Glad to have you in Northwest Florida.
It's been great.
You bet. Thanks for joining us. Stan Connally, he is the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Gulf Power Company. By the way, you can see more of our conversations online at WSRE.org/conversations. I'm Jeff Weeks. Thank you so very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the broadcast. Take great care of yourself. We'll see you soon.
Support for this program is provided in part by these corporate sponsors. And by viewers like you.